Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rekakadash. Now, this lesson I'm going to do through the Spirit, talking about the end of the red dragon. Now, when you go into Revelation chapter 12, it talks about the red dragon, and people associate this thing, or they bring up the doctrine of, pretty much the doctrine of the red dragon, by saying it's a fallen angel. But when you go to the scriptures, it tells a totally different story. Now in chapter 12 starts off, it say, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven. Now when it's saying a great wonder in heaven, this is the Apostle John having a revelation, or being revealed what's going to happen, what's going to shortly come to pass, as the scriptures say. Let's go to that. I don't want to misquote it or butcher it. Revelation chapter 1, it said, the revelations of Yahushua Mashiach, which Yahweh gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Okay, so this was a vision given to John. So when he saying there appeared in heaven, he's not talking about the up in the third heaven. He's talking about just the sky. And when you go into the how they call it, Old English, that's how heaven is. That's the meaning of heaven. So he say, there appeared a great one in heaven, and a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now this woman, she represents the nation of Israel, because it tells you why. In verse 2 it says, and she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. That child is the coming Messiah, the Savior of the nation of Israel. And so the woman represents Israel, and she birthed in the Messiah and the King of Israel. And so now it's going to talk about the red dragon. It say, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. Also, the word heaven can mean the third heaven, or the sky, or it can also mean the kingdom. You see, the kingdom that's on earth. And so if either way you want to say it, it appeared in the sky or in the kingdom. He saw the nation of Israel, and in the kingdom he saw the red dragon. And this is the red dragon. It say, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. Verse 4, it say, for his tail drew the third of the stars of heaven. So a third of the stars, the lady had 12 stars on her crown. And so a third of the stars was drew by the dragon. And it said it did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it be born. Who was that? Who was trying to devour Yahushua who they ignorantly called Jesus Christ when he was born? It was the Romans. The Romans, who was not Romans because they was naming themselves after a landmass. They were the children of Edom. You see, the children of Edom was waiting for this child to be born. Verse 5 said, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron. You see, that's Yahushua Mashiach. And her child was caught up under God and to his throne. Okay, so this child that was from Judah, when you go into Hebrews 7 and 14, it lets you know it's evidence that the Lord sprang out of Judah. And you see, and so this the third of the stars, we'll go back to that was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So out of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the dragon, the red dragon, who are the Romans or the Edomites, they had in captivity and was taxing Judah, Benjamin, and Levi in Jerusalem because the Romans had took over everything, and they was standing and waiting for this child to be delivered. You see? Now, let's see here. Let's jump over to Matthew 2 and 16. See if we can grab some of this of who was sitting there waiting for the children of Israel. Who was this red dragon? Okay. 2 and 16, it said, then Herod. Now Herod is Matthew 2 and 16. Herod was an Edomite. You can go Google it, go online, and see and put in Herod. It's gonna say he was a descendant of Esau, an Edomite. So this is the red dragon who is sitting there waiting for the child to be delivered. But let me go finish the verse. It say, then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that was in Bethlehem. You see? So he was waiting on this child, this male child, and he was killing all of the other male child. This red dragon. You see? So it's clear on who the red dragon is. It had nothing to do with a fallen angel. It says 4:2. It says, let me go back to verse 4 in Revelation 12. It says, the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it be born. And so when you go into Matthew chapter 2 verse 16, it's clear as day. Herod the Edomite was waiting on this child. So that's why they called the dragon red, a great red dragon. Here in Revelations 3, Revelations chapter 12 verse 3. Now let's go into the Apocrypha and see why have they ever called an Edomite a red dragon or a dragon. Let's go into the editions of Esther in the Apocrypha, starting in chapter 10, in the very beginning of the book. And that's another reason why these Edomites took it out, because they didn't want you to know their history. That's another way in Jeremiah. Let's get that real quick before I get who the red dragon was in the Apocrypha. let's get why they don't want you to know they the red dragon, and they trying to hide the fact, because they had the records. Jeremiah 49:10, it say, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His children, his brethren, his neighbors, none of them is going to be able to hide themselves. Now let's go back to Editions of Esther, chapter 10, and to get a context, Haman was trying to exterminate the Israelites, and the Persians was ruling, and the Macedonians and the Greeks was trying to take over. We know the Greeks was certified white, so-called white people. So that instantly lets you know who is these Edomites. And Haman was an Agagite who came from Esau, was a tribe of Esau. But when you look at that in the 10th chapter of Esther, the editions of Esther in the Apocrypha, the 10th chapter, verse 7, it say, and 2 dragons, and I and Ammon. You see? Or I and Ammon. So these 2 dragons was talked about. And Ammon was an Edomite, and they called him a dragon. Now you jump over to verse 11, verse 6. He say, behold, 2 great dragons came forth ready to fight, and their cry was great. So these Edomites been called dragon, and they called dragon in the addition to Esther. That's why they took that out of the Bible, because it's all Esther. You got Esther in the Bible. Why you take this out? Because now it's going to let you see that these dragons is talked about before. Somebody was called a dragon, and it was these red dragon Edomites. You see? And so when you go back to the Revelations 12, let's see here. We know that Herod was standing over this child ready to devour him. That's who the dragon was. The dragon was a certified Edomite. When you Google Herod, it's going to say he's an Edomite. His father was an Edomite. Okay? Now it says the woman fled into the wilderness in verse 6. This is Revelation 12. The woman fled into the wilderness, where she have a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. So the woman was going to go to the wilderness, and she was going to pretty much be fed, it said. Then in verse 7, this is where they thought to go off. It says, and there was war in heaven. See, what heaven are you talking about? It's not talking about in heaven with God. You talking about the sky or in the kingdom. In the kingdom of earth. It says there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. That's the Romans, the so-called Romans who are Edomites, or in Herod peoples, and the dragon fought with his angels. And he fought with his messengers or his host, and host goes back to military, goes back to armies, because that word, that Greek word, is not is going back to angel, but angel still represents armies. It don't just represent a spiritual being. It represents an army. And that's what it is. Edomites and their army. Who has the greatest army on earth? When Michael comes, let's get Daniel 12. When Michael comes, who is going to be the middle? What's going to be on earth to battle with him? Daniel chapter 12. Let's get that. Daniel chapter 12. Okay. Okay, let me. Salaki. Oh, there we go. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. It say, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. So in that time, that's when Michael is going to stand up for the children of thy people, meaning for that woman, and he's going to fight with his military against the red dragon, because the red dragon is going to be doing something. Now when you go back to Revelation 12, this is why Michael is going to stand up for the children of Israel, because he was telling Daniel that Michael is going to stand up for your people, because his people is going to be in a time of trouble that's never ever been, and they're going to be about to be exterminated. So he going to have to stand up and deliver his people. But in Revelation 12, this is why it tells you who's going to be after his people. Verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to wage war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Yahushua Hamashiach. Now, so Michael standing up, because the dragon, who are the Edomites, Herod's people, the Romans, the Greeks, you see, he's standing up because these Edomites is going to be ruling, and they're going to be trying to exterminate the woman, because they stood before the child and tried to exterminate the child before it even came out, the Savior. But now that they know that they got a short period of time, let's get that. Why are they going to go on attack mode? Revelation 12, and, oh, that's Daniel, Salakia. Let me get that Revelation 12. Revelation 12 and 12, it say, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, that's the people in this kingdom, and ye that dwell in them. See, people don't dwell in no sky. That'll let you know further that heaven is talking about the kingdom. And ye that dwell in them, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has a short period of time. So that come down, that's just an add-on. But the main idea is that this devil got a short period of time. No, God didn't put no time on some fallen angel. They didn't say the angels fell down and God gave them a short period of time to rule or to do whatever they want to do, and after that he was going to do something to them. No, he didn't set no time for no group of fallen angels. They are not on no kind of time. But guess who is on time? Let's go and get that. Because the woman is the nation of Israel, through looking at how the child was birthed out of Judah. Then Herod is the red dragon. So let's go back to Herod's people in Genesis 27. Genesis 27. Here we go. Genesis 27. Let's see here. Genesis 27, starting at verse 38. It say, and Esau said unto his father, have thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, meaning the richness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above, meaning you're going to have the kingdom. the top kingdom. Now, verse 40, it says, and by thy sword thou shalt live and serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou have had the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay, and so this is the rulership of Esau, but Esau didn't get the only blessing. Jacob was given a blessing. So Esau don't have forever to rule on earth, and earth get destroyed, and then they go to some other, the people go to another place. No, Esau is gonna rule, and then Jacob is gonna rule. Let's jump back over to verse 29, because he told Jacob, he gave Jacob a blessing. He told Jacob in this jump verse 28. Therefore God gave you of the dew of heaven. He gonna give you the kingdom, and the fatness of the earth, the richness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Okay. 29. He said, let people serve you, and nations bow down to you, and be Lord over your brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to you. So Jacob had to come into his rulership. So Esau had a short period of time to rule, because Jacob got to rule. That's why in the middle of his blessing, in verse 40, he said, thou shalt serve thy brother. So he let him know in the middle, while he tell him his blessing, you still gonna have to serve your brother. And then his mother helped Jacob get in a position to get the main blessing in in chapter 25 and verse 23. Let's see what the angel told her. 23 saying, the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manners of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder, meaning Esau, shall serve the younger, Jacob. So Esau is going to rule, and then his rulership is going to be over, and Jacob is going to rule. Now let's get that in the Apocrypha, because the Bible says prove all things in 1 Thessalonians 5 and 21. So in Ezra's, let's see, Ezra 6. Ezra's chapter, 2nd Ezra, Salaki. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 verse 9. 6 verse 9. Oh, skip the page. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So Esau is the end of the world. He have a short period of time only to rule, but Jacob has forever to rule. You see, so Jacob wasn't gonna rule before Esau, or was gonna get his blessing before Esau, because Jacob had an everlasting rulership. Esau was gonna get the short blessing because his wasn't gonna be forever. So that's how the red dragon, the children of Edom, understood. The children of Esau, they understood that they got a short period of time, and mainly because, let me get that in Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16, and let's see here, 19. It say, O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction, the Gentiles shall come unto you from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. So these Edomites start realizing, or is going to realize, that their time is running out. You see, their time is running out because they realizing that the children of Israel has awakened, and they are, and the children of Israel telling them that they are the Edomites, and they have a short period of time. So that's when the wrath is gonna come. You see, that's when the wrath is gonna come. When the Israelites wake up and tell these Edomites that their time is running out. And it tells you that in Revelation, the chapter right before, chapter 11. 11, it say, after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. Okay, so when the spirit came into the Israelites, they stood upon their feet. Okay, and they start telling people that they understand who they are, because they're not dead spiritually anymore. Like verse 8 says, they are awakened. They are revived, like Hosea chapter 6 verse 1. They have revived and returned to the nationality of who they are, and they know who everybody else is also, because the Spirit gave them knowledge of all of the things that they needed to know. Say it like that. Now it goes on to say, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So what is that great fear? That great fear is in that the red dragon, knowing in chapter 12, verse 12, that great fear gonna turn into great wrath. See, the great fear, let me make sure I'm saying this right now. Great fear fell upon them. That great fear gonna turn into great wrath. And just like a cat, what is it? When the cat get his back against the wall, he ready to fight. You see, when your back against the wall, you ready to fight. And the red dragon understand that we got a short period of time. So the great fear hit them, and then the great wrath hit them, because the Israelites letting them know. You see, the Israelites proclaiming their judgment, pretty much. They're prophesying against these Edomites and telling them that their time is up. Their time to rule is up. Okay? And so the red dragon, when you go back, in the next verse, in the next chapter, it gives some more details about the red dragon. In verse 4, it lets you know how this dragon operates. It says, and they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast. So the dragon gave power to the beast, meaning the dragon's power is the military. You see, the military is where all the power lies of the dragon. It didn't transfer, they didn't have power and then give it to another group of people. It didn't have power. The Edomites didn't have power and give their power to somebody else. No, their power is in their military. That's the beast. Because this is why you know the military of the Edomites is the beast. Let's get that in verse and finish of the verse. It says, and they worship the beast, saying, that means, and then worship don't mean you bowing down and saying, oh God, or praying to the beast. No, they respected and honored the beast as a power. You see, they gave it honor and respect. That's all worship means. It says, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? You see, who is able to make war with the beast? And so that's why when you get to verse chapter 17, it breaks down who the dragon was. Now let's get that. 17 17 and 12, it says the 10 horn which thou sawest. Where did you see the 10 horn? You saw the 10 horn on the red dragon. Okay? The 10 horn which thou sawest are 10 kings. There are 10 Edomite kings. Because the red dragon is the Edomites. So these are 10 kings that the Edomites, 10 kingdoms. It said, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. See, so all of these was in cahoots with each other. That's why when you get to verse 16, it said the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. So the beast is the military all together of the Edomites. So when you get to verse 16, it says that the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, that means they was riding the beast. They was in cahoots with this beast. They was all together with the beast. Shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So it lets you know that the beast was the military, but just like America is allies with these other nations, other Edomite nations, but the allies of America is gonna hate America, who is the whore, the great city that reign over all the rest, and who have all the military bases and the greatest military. They're gonna hate America and burn her with fire, meaning they're gonna destroy America with nuclear weapons. And they're gonna join the other peoples, the kings of the earth, to do so. And so this red dragon is gonna pretty much be destroyed, and they're not gonna be totally destroyed because they got to go into slavery. When you go into Revelation 13, it talks about this or it gives a judgment of this red dragon, because the dragon gave his power to the beast, but it didn't disappear and not exist anymore. It says, another beast come out of the earth, having had 2 horns like a lamb. Okay, so that lets you know this another beast pretty much that they were describing, and kind of showing you how it was 2 elements to the beast. That's how the best way to say that. It's 2 elements to the beast. It's the 10 kings and the whore combined. The one horn is the whore, and the other horn is the 10 kings or the other Edomites that's allies to America. It says in verse 10 though, when you jump up, it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So these 2, the whole dragon led the children of Israel into captivity, just like in 3, 4, it say the tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. So that the tail of the dragon. And so let's get 20. Let's get 20. I want to add 20 in here because you got the so-called Christians paying attention and trying to critique. So in Revelation 20, it talks about this same dragon. It said, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and the great chain in his hand. It said, and he laid hold onto the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now, when you go into the history, the Edomites was ruling during the time that the child came out in Revelation 12. They was ruling and they was waiting for the baby to come out. Herod was waiting. He went to killing all the children of a certain age, and he was waiting on the Messiah to kill the Messiah. So they was ruling then. But an angel came down and threw them into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Because when you look at the history, in 193 AD, a guy named Niger became Caesar and started ruling Rome. Then after him, another Israelite came and started ruling. So the Israelites came back into rulership and put the yoke back on Esau's neck in 192, and they ruled all the way to 1492, or somewhere close in there, in the Byzantine Empire, and in England, and Sweden, where King James was ruling, still ruling at that time. You see, so they ruled for 1,000 years, and the Edomites was in the bottomless pit, meaning they was in the top land, because pit means land. So they was not at the bottom land. They was not in the bottom lands. They was in the top lands, being ruled over by the children of Israel. And they wasn't being ruled. And they wasn't deceiving the nations, as verse 3 said. He set a seal upon him. See, he shut him up and put a seal upon him, meaning that they wasn't deceiving nobody back then. They call it the medieval time. They call it the night. They call them knights. The medieval time. The Dark Ages. That's what they call it. They called it the Dark Ages. That's what and the ages mean time. That was the time that the dark-skinned people was ruling, which were the Israelites. You see? And when you go into those kings, those Caesars that took over in 193, they was in Africa, North Africa, ruling. So that's how these Edomites went into the bottomless pit. It had nothing to do with no fallen angel being thrown into a bottomless pit. See, that's a lie from the Edomites. And let's get that where I'm at, 38. Let's get that, and King David let you know what's going on with Esau. Because Esau had a perpetual hatred, according to Ezekiel 35 and Amos, the 1st chapter, but it don't give you too much about Esau in those other books. But King David let you know what was going on with Esau, and he called them a dragon. Because another thing, serpent and dragon goes hand in hand. And I don't hear that too much coming out. That's why it called him an old serpent and it called him a dragon, all into the same sentence. Because here in Psalms 58 verse 3, it say, the wicked, talking about the Edomites, when you go to Malachi chapter 1 verse 4, it lets you know that the Edomites was the wicked, the border of wickedness. But here in Psalms 58 and 3, it say the wicked are estranged from the womb, meaning they come out. They come out of the womb, and it say they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So they are born. When they are born, they come out speaking lies, but it goes back to Esau. It's in their bloodline. That's why it's talking about being born. It's something that they didn't have nothing to do with it. They're getting it from their forefathers. And so it says in verse 4, their poison is like the poison of a serpent. That's why they're known as dragon. They are like the death's adder that stoppeth her ear. So these Edomites is known to be liars. Okay, and the King David and the Israelites been always battling with these Edomites. When you go into the next chapter, at the top it says, when Joab returned and smote of Edom in the valley of Salt 12,000. You see that all through here. Then it talks about them. It says, who would bring me into the strong city? Who would lead me into Edom? See? Now when you get to 52 though, jump back to Psalm 52. It says, starting at verse 2, the tongue. Now, when you go up into the headline, it says, when Dagon the Edomite came to Saul and said unto him. So this is something that the Edomite was saying something to him, and it said, David is come to the house of Amalek. So pretty much Esau telling a lie on David. But in verse 2, it says, the tongue devises mischief like a sharp razor working deceitfully. Verse 3. This in Psalm 52, verse 3. Say, thou lovest evil more than good, and love lying rather than to speak righteousness. Verse 4. Thou lovest all devouring words, O you deceitful tongue. So these Edomites love lying. You see? And it talks about them in 64. It says, hide me from the 64 verse 2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked. Meaning you doing stuff secretly. You're lying. You're not telling the truth coming out into the open, bringing light to the situation. You dealing in darkness. It says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. You see, it says, who whet their tongue like a sword. You see, sharpen their tongue like a sword, to bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, telling lies. And so these Edomites don't want people to know that they are the red dragon in the Bible. And the elites understand it, because they had all the records for longer than anybody. So that's how they was able to hide the information. And they was talked about too. See, the red dragon, he know more than he act like he know. Let's get that in Ezekiel 28. Talks about these red dragons. It says here, in verse 3, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from you. You see, there's no secret that these hidden ones spoken of in Psalms 83, that the children of Israel will be hidden, they will be kept in secret. No, the Edomites understood it. And so that's why they want to hide their identity, that they are the red dragon, the devil, and Satan. In the Bible, devil means deceiver or a liar. See, they nation always lie. That's why Yahushua, who they even call Jesus Christ, said that in John 8:44, that they are the father of the lie. Okay, and then it called them Satan. Satan just means adversary. When you go into the Hebrew, Satan meant adversary. So they're the adversary of the Israelites, because they came out of the womb with the Israelites, and they made a vow that they would revenge themselves once Isaac died, and that spirit kept on with them. That's what Ezekiel 35 and 5 is about. they had a perpetual hatred due to the blessing that was given to the Israelites. So the red dragon is at his end, and the wrath of the red dragon is growing and growing because they know they have a short period of time and their destruction is near. But I'm going to leave it there. All praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth worldwide. Peace to the elect that's worldwide. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.